Can you imagine an organization knowing of a health issue for almost 60 years and doing nothing? This is unconscionable. However, due to the recent public awareness of concussions while being involved in sports, measures are being taken to improve the protocols that are in place to help protect the athletes' health during play, but also their future health. As a sports professional, I do not want to see another athlete become the next to suffer from the hit that has a lasting impact. Like former high school football standout Zach Esther, as he documented his last 5 months before committing suicide, of what it was like suffering from the high velocity impacts to the head and the possible CTE. Looking back at my high school athletic career, it is easy to say that my teammates, or I, could have been the next athlete to suffer the hit that has a lasting impact. I believe that the lack of knowledge, lack of properly trained personnel, and improper training for the organization's concussion protocol are among the leading causes for concussions in the sport of football. Last year, throughout the United States, there was just over 1 million high school football players. So the question becomes, how are these athletes protected from concussions and future health risks? At the high school level, all 50 states implemented in a standard concussion protocol, the Lysted Law. This law is a major turning point in the protection of athletes in regards to concussions. This law states that if an athlete is thought to have received a concussion, it is required by law that the athlete be removed from the field of play and seek medical attention. In order to return to play, that athlete must have medical clearance and a sign-off. If you are like myself and come from a small Division IV school, having a certified athletic trainer or medical personnel on staff was non-existent. Funding is where it lies. Funding becomes the bigger issues for high schools to provide the appropriate care for an athlete. Instead of receiving immediate medical attention for a concussion, the care is prolonged, which could ultimately lead to worsening of the concussion for the athlete. In improving the concussion protocol, high schools need to have a certified athletic trainer or medical personnel on staff during practices and games. They should also have a sports staff take certain training every year before practices even start and have daily conversations in regards to how to keep the athletes safe and what to do in emergency situations. If we transition to the collegiate level of football, there are no specific concussion laws in place to protect the over 73,000 players. However, these athletes have accessibility to immediate care with a certified athletic trainer or medical personnel on site. Although the NCAA concussion protocol is fairly similar to the high school level one additional feature that is implemented in is the one-time baseline testing at the beginning of college for all athletes. This is done so that in the event of a concussion, additional testing is done on the athlete, and the trainers and medical personnel can compare results to the initial test. Improving this concussion testing, institutions should have all athletes complete this baseline testing annually. This will help distinguish any further health changes over the course of that year. The question is, could this testing be the next step in early detection of CTE? Could this early detection possibly save a former player's life? However, it is the NFL that is the leader of the pack when it comes to the concussion epidemic and CTE. It is this organization that brings the highest profile publicity to the concussion topic and sport. This publicity by the NFL concussion epidemic has had a ripple effect on the lower levels of football. One thing that the NFL is doing right is every year they revise and update their concussion protocol. This is easily related to the NCAA protocol, but it could be even better if they implemented in the baseline testing annually. 60 years later, the National Football League is faced with numerous lawsuits and bad press as a result of the failure to protect the health and safety of their athletes when it comes to concussions. Their negligence and failure to brief their athletes of the additional risks beyond the initial inherent risk in the sport of football has become the most concerning issue in regards to former players, their families, and their health. The former players are citing that 1, the NFL knew about the long-term health risks associated with concussions and repeated blows to the head, and 2, deliberately ignored and actively concealed this information in order to protect the economic value of their organization and the game. The concussion epidemic has recently found its way to the NCAA, with over 300 lawsuits being filed by former NCAA athletes. After researching the impacts a concussion can have on all levels of football, the question we are left with is, what can we, as sports professionals, do to implement more advanced protocols that will help to prevent and lessen the concussion crisis? All of the different levels of football have their own protocols, which have strong points and weak points. With that said, both the NFL and the NCAA have a duty to protect the health and safety of their players within their leagues, as well as a responsibility to the coaches, medical personnel, and players on the appropriate protocols and safety risks within the sport. If the NCAA, the NFL, and even the high school levels were to work together, they could build a more invasive concussion standard that would protect the overall health and safety of all the athletes involved.